Hey guys, welcome back to Popo's Woodworks, and today's project is going to be building a sandbox. I got my daughter's 3rd birthday coming up in a couple days actually, so I'm going to go ahead and try to hurry up and get this thing out so she'll have it by her birthday. Basically, in a nutshell, this sandbox is going to be the one that has the built-in lid that you open it up and it puts a bench seat on each side. And most of the plans that I've seen online, they're using the 1-inch thick wood that you can buy at Lowe's, the 1x4s and the 1x8s. But I looked at just the 1x8s and they're over $12 and some odd change. So what I'm going to do, being the cheap person that I always say that I am, I looked at the 2x8s by 8 foot, the 2-inch thick, and they're actually $6, so actually half price of all the other lumber. So I bought those. I'm not sure if the thickness of the wood is going to interfere with the seat mechanisms, but if it does, and we'll just try to modify, or we'll figure that out when we get there. And I'm gonna dress the edges up to take that round over part on the edges of my 2x4s. I'm gonna hit them with the table saw, just take off a hair just to make them square. And then I'm gonna run them through my planer to get the flat part dressed out to where it looks decent. And let me take this time to say, I'm kind of excited because I haven't got to use my planer yet. My wife just bought it for me for my birthday. And it is actually a DeWalt planer, but I'm not a brand specific type of person. I mean, you'll see any kind of tool you can think of in my shop, from a $1 tool to a $100 tool or more. But I did want to say thanks to my lovely wife for buying me the DeWalt planer. Excellent choice, and I can't wait to use it today. So, brownie points. Anyhow, with that said, let's get started. All right, so I'm gonna need 12 of these 2x4s at 47.5 inches long. So what I did is I set my miter saw and I moved this piece here to where it's exactly 47.5 inches from the blade, because I'm gonna have to do a lot of repeat cuts. And instead of measuring every cut, I'm just gonna come back and butt this wood up against this post right here and make all my cuts. So we'll get those cut and I'll be right back. Since I've got my saw already set up at 47.5, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the 2x8s and cut them down so I don't have to change anything. All right, so I got all the lumber cut. This 2x8, this is at 47.5 inches long. You need 2 of these. This is 46 inches long, it's 8 foot long. Got 12 of these at 47.5 inches long. This is the 2x4s. These are 12.5 inches long, 2x4s, and these are 7.5 inches long, the 2x4s. So here's a stack of lumber, and I'm gonna go ahead and get everything laid out and get these edges squared off and go ahead and run these through the planer. So I've got all my edges. I just took off just a hair, about a saw blade's width, just to dress up the edges of these 2x4s. And of course, I know it's not raining now. Here's my little helper. So of course, here's the aftermath, and I don't have dust collection. My dust collection is the old-fashioned push broom. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up this mess, and then we'll get started on the next thing. All right, so now I'm gonna take the planer, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run it through and just take off maybe, if anything, 1/16 of an inch, just enough to take off all these little grooves and indentions you can see where they ran it through the mill. So I'm just gonna take off just a hair on both sides to make this wood look fresh. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing fired up and run these through. Laid out, and what I'm gonna do is right here on this is the 47.5 inch piece, this one's the 46 inch piece. So what I did is I came here and measured 2 3/4 inches on both ends. So So I'm gonna line this board up here and I'm gonna have it inset 2 3/4 inches, and I'm gonna do this on this end and the end over there. So basically I'm just gonna take some 2 1/2 inch wood screws and just run them from straight in through the end here, or I may do my pocket holes, because anytime you run a screw into the end grain, it's not all that strong. So I may do some pocket holes here and just let them run through and bite into this where to be a good bond. And I'm also going to use glue. So here's pocket holes. I like to use, I've had this drill right here for about 25 years, and it's really old and it's really slow. That way I use this for the pocket hole so I don't drive the screw slam through the pocket hole. It's done become a low torque drill now. So right there's the pocket holes. I'm gonna put 4 in each end, 2 1/2 inch screws. All right, so I got a speed square right here to make sure my corner's gonna be square when I do it. I'm gonna be using Titebond 3 glue because that's the waterproof interior exterior glue. So basically I'm gonna get my 2 1/2 inch pocket hole screws and I'm gonna glue this edge right here and get it going. So I got the base of it together. Now I'm gonna get the 2x4s and start putting them across the top. Okay, so you take 2 of the 2x4s and you mount them on the end. Right here is the inset. So you mount them on the end, and I use 2 1/2 inch screws to do that. So they're gonna be permanently mounted to the board. All right, and now we're gonna get to the next. What I did here is just took 2 pieces of scrap wood I had. This is 1 1/4 inch, 3/4. So you put them both together, and it gives me 1 inch spacer, which I put in between this board here. So I took the 7 1/2 inch piece of 2x4, put it down, and I actually laid it right here on the edge and drew a line and just set it in just a touch so it won't hit, because this is going to be part of the seat. So basically this is what we got now. So now I got to make 2 of these exactly the same. You're going to take this flush side, you're going to set it in here like so, and I got my 2 1 inch spacers, and I'm going to line that up there, make sure it's flush on the edges. And I bought 8 of these spring hinges, but of course you really need 3 inch, and my lows, the smallest they had was these 4 inches. So when I go to lay them down, let me get this closer where you can see, you see it's going to hang over just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and grind that little round piece here off with my grinder. So I took the hinges and went 9 inches to the inside. So now with these hinges here, you can take this piece and flip it up just like that right there. All right, now I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my last 2 2x4s and I'm gonna butt these right up together flush. Then I'm gonna take the 12 1/2 inch 2x4 and I'm gonna flush it. I'm gonna flush it out here on this end here, and I'm gonna anchor it down, and I'm gonna leave all this extra right here hanging over. So let me get started and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to take my 2 inch screws. Now I'm just going to get one started real quick. Alright, I'm going to make sure this is flush, and I've got this sitting on the workbench, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in. Then I'll take my second screw and I'm going to kind of stagger it because I don't want the 2 in there. Like so. Now, what I'll do is I'll lay the other one on top of here, and then I'm gonna go on the other side and do the exact same thing on the other. So I'm trying to do this by myself. So what I did is I took a 3/4 inch piece of wood, ran it through here, clamped it down. That way it holds this up. I have my spacers sitting there. So now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this piece I just put with these 2 together, and I'm gonna set it down right directly on top of my spacers, and I'm gonna make sure it's flush with the outer edge. Just like that. Now what I'll do is I've already marked 4 1/2 inches in here. So what I'll do now is I'm gonna take my spring hinges and I'm gonna mount them to this board and this other board. So I'm just gonna screw the screws into there and do that on both sides. So I got all them on, laid them down. Now we're at the point of putting the gate handles on. So I'm gonna screw those down on all 4 corners, or boards rather, and go from there. As you can see with the lid closed, this is the way it looks. Help keep debris out. So all you gotta do is grab these handles, pick it up, and set that one there, and grab the other side, pick it up, and then there you go. Come here, sugar. Test it out. Have a seat. And as you can see, it's the perfect size for them. Do you like that? Is it comfortable? Well, she gives me a thumbs up, so that's a good thing. So now all you gotta do is stain it, paint it, which I think I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I may stain it and then seal it with some water sealer. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing sanded, which running the boards through the planer, it's not a whole lot that I do have to have left to sand, because the planer's new and blades are sharp and it actually does a really good job. So like I said before, you could put a bottom in this and add one of those weed barriers that you would put before putting mulch down if you're going to put it on top of the grass to keep the weeds from growing through the sand. But I'm putting this on my patio around behind my house. It's going to be sitting on concrete, so I'm not going to add any of that to it. So let me go ahead and get this thing closed up and go on from there. So that's pretty much a wrap on this project. I was gonna go ahead and stain it, but with this weather, it's pouring down rain, it's so muggy and humid in here, it'll take forever for it to dry. So I'm gonna wait for a nicer day where I can do it out of the garage. So anyhow, I will stain it and I will throw some water seal on it. It's gonna be sitting outside and it will get weathered and get wet from the rain. But just a quick recap, I bought two 2x8 by 8 foot long boards, and then I bought 6 2x4s by 8 foot long, and I cut those. I actually got my 12 slats out of those. Now I did run the edges through on the table saw to knock off that round over that's on every 2x4, and I did run them through my planer. Luckily the planer, it's not a whole, all I sanded was the edges, the end piece, but it wasn't really no sanding for me to do, so that planer is going to pay for itself without me having to pick up a hand sander, because I hate that. As y'all know, y'all watching my video, I hate sanding, I really do. But I think my little girl is going to really enjoy it. They'll probably fight over something, because they always do. But that's a wrap on that, and like I always say, thank you for watching, and always like and subscribe. Have a good day.